Welcome to the Global Discussion with creatives, leaders, and thinkers. My name is Simon Hodgkins. Today, it's a real pleasure to be joined by Melissa Mitchell. Melissa was actually part of the Global Interview, one of our over 400 written interviews where we profiled people back in the day. Today, she's a brand new guest here on the Global Discussion, our video and audio show. So it's a real pleasure to have you here. Let's begin by asking you, maybe introduce yourself. Tell us a bit about your background and the business you're involved in today. So over to you, Melissa.
Hello, Simon. Thank you for having me on. I am so pumped and so excited to be asked, and one of the first to be on the video version of this. So thank you for having me back, and to your audience. My name's Melissa Mitchell. I'm here in Australia, where it's always so hot. Um, I'm an organic marketer. I sort of stumbled into this profession. I've actually got no marketing degree, but I just found I had a knack for it many years ago. And now I own a marketing agency. We specialize in organic marketing. Now, what I love about it is we don't just post on our clients' behalf. We love to really get into the soul of what a brand is, really understanding the authenticity of what that brand is, whether it's a person or the brand as a whole. How do we extract what is in that person or brand's brain, really? How are we going to bring that to life through posts, and really extract that and bring that into the audience and bring that to life?
Well, that's great. Thank you for the introduction, Melissa. And
Yeah.
I know you know an awful lot about this space. And I want to go back to one of the things that you've said, which is the difference between organic and paid social, because a lot of big companies, they have big budgets, they can invest an awful lot. But there's a lot of small to medium sized businesses and individuals who are really struggling with their organic social content because they don't see the engagement. They're not quite sure how the algorithm works. I mean, do you see this? Is this a common problem? Is this where you're really helping people?
Yeah, and that's mostly who I work with, that small to medium enterprise. And, Simon, it is sometimes a really hard sell for us because I get it as a business. And we mostly work with service-based businesses, and it is quite difficult to be able to sell a service to someone where I can't show them a click-through rate to their website to purchase a retail product. And it is quite hard for them to invest a decent amount of money a month to be able to then say, okay, but how many units did I sell of this? The other thing is, it's when people don't understand the digital world, you're really selling a product that is kind of in thin air. It's thin in air. And even when I work with my accountant, they're also wealth builders, they do a bit of coaching with me, and they're like, Melissa, and that part of my business isn't my strong suit, how to present to clients. And, we're working on that, on how to, I guess, the BD side, and, on how to get that up to scratch. They're like, okay, you've got to be able to say to your clients, we'll 10x this, we'll 20x this. And I struggle with that myself, Simon, to be able to say, well, we'll do this, we'll do that, and to really get that, ROI, or, because we're not doing paid. How do you say to someone, we're going to, get you X amount in sales? Because organic marketing is about, I describe it as a marathon, not a sprint. And sometimes it is a really, really hard sell. And I actually heard Gary Vee say something really interesting once. Like, he talks about this a lot because, of course, he's all over organic marketing. And he said even today, like, he has, big billion-dollar companies even talking to him saying, unconvinced about this. And he actually says to them, right, so you're telling me you can't sell lipsticks online, but social media can bring down democracy in America, or, it can cause riots, but you're telling me you can't sell a lipstick through organic marketing. So it's a really hard thing, Simon. It's like you said, and particularly, I guess, those businesses that, they're nervous to go and sell, spend thousands of dollars per month or, upwards of that. But, we do work with bigger businesses that do have the capital and the funding to be able to spend that. They understand it, and we get those results for them, and there's not a problem. But the smaller businesses, yeah, it's a hard sell. Um, One thing for your audience, if they are considering this kind of marketing, they've really got to understand, one, it's a long-term game. It's a marathon, it's not a sprint. Some organic marketing is going to take off really quickly, some isn't. And we say to our clients, we cannot tell you from the start whether it's going to happen in 2 days, 2 weeks, 2 months, or a year. We will get you the results, but it is completely unknown. Now, even with something like, and I am not a Google AdWords specialist, or I'm not a meta ad specialist, but it's no different. Really, no one can actually tell you, even on Google AdWords, we're going to guarantee this. They can say, oh, this is what we aim for, but they cannot guarantee it because there's so many factors involved. I mean, you get a riot or something as simple as, okay, it's not a simple trivia matter. Of course, it was very serious, but when the Black Lives Matter had happened, there was a lot of organic traffic that just stopped because they stopped showing a lot of things on Instagram. Wasn't even to do with Black Lives Matter, but everyone was completely careful, all the platforms. And rightfully so. Yeah, they just weren't showing things in stories, and nothing to do with Black Lives Matter, which is it was a serious issue. But social media platforms will pull a lot of content, even if it's not to do with it, and we'll see fluctuations in organic traffic. So there's a lot of things involved, and that's why, look, I don't make, when a new client signs on, I don't make any of those guarantees, and sometimes that's why it is quite hard to sell. The other thing is, it has never been busier online. We know that. And even with paid ads, with Meta, I'm not so sure about LinkedIn, but I know with Meta, you do not get the results that people were getting 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago. It's just not the same. So unfortunately, you just have to be everywhere now. It's like being in New York. It doesn't sleep. And the digital world changes so quickly. And then AI was introduced and more people are yeah. And I can see, if your viewers are just listening now, Simon's smiling at that, because when AI came out, everyone thought they were an expert marketer and were just mass producing content. And what that actually did to the organic space meant that there's so much real estate to be filled up in your newsfeed with this crap content and not enough eyeballs to see it. So then as organic marketers, okay, how are we going to get better to get seen? So there's all these factors that makes it really difficult. So we've just got to constantly come up with different ways. So it can be a really hard thing to sell, but as a business, if you are listening, you've got to be across it. And unfortunately, you cannot just, if you're marketing for yourself, you cannot just turn up every now and then. And in a nutshell, and then I'll wrap this little part up that I'm talking about. If I can give you your audience the biggest tip, the reason why you cannot be inconsistent is if you think about an algorithm wants to predict. So it wants to know, okay, I can trust your social media, Simon. So I know Simon shows up every single week, 3 days a week. Let's say Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday on LinkedIn at 8 p.m. So I know at LinkedIn that if he's going to show up on those days, we know we can make X amount of money from him to show this content to his audience. It's predictability. So we're going to make money from advertising. That's why it doesn't work. I had a client today asking, like, we're doing a little bit. They bought a second company to integrate into their existing company. I said, look, let's just cross post for the time being. I won't charge you, but then we need to sit down and work out a proper strategy. I'll need to charge you. what if we just do a bit here and there? And I said, no point, because we're not doing it properly. So there's so many different factors people need to consider with organic. It's not as straightforward as just get a post out there.
No, thank you, Melissa, and that's very interesting. There's a few things that you said in there that stuck with me. One is it's not the same 2 years ago as it is today, and it doesn't seem to be the same last week as it is this week. It changes very, very quickly. I think that's a key takeaway.
Yes.
And also the consistency and the algorithm likes to predict. I think that's a really strong takeaway for people too. And it is a little bit about being everywhere, but also I suppose the bit I want to come on to, and one thing I want to ask you is about the type of content and that difference between a personal brand and a company. Because I know
Yes.
you, from a personal perspective, like you said at the top, you're working in both avenues. You've kind of got the
Yes.
personal brand and you've got the agency. So could you maybe talk a little bit about the content, the approach to that? What does that mean? Because some small businesses, it's maybe
Yeah.
not one or two people that are the face of the company, that are the brand.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's an interesting thing. My recommendation, not everyone recommends this. And what I will say to your audience is you're going to get 100 gurus, experts say different things. Everyone's right. You've got to take what's best for you. My recommendation, and I've heard a lot of people recommend this, but hey, you got to make it work for you. I truly believe, and particularly for a lot of the smaller businesses, I'm not talking about Coca-Cola or Pepsi or anything like this. You, in the beginning, have to make someone in your brand the personality in the beginning. Okay. It can be a little bit harder as you grow and you can start to work other people into it. But I truly believe in the beginning, you've got to have some kind of personality about that, or meet the team, or build people into it. Because people have to resonate with something. And Gary Vee said this, and I love Gary Vee. Not everyone does, I know, but he's got some really good points from an organic marketing. He made a really good point. He always says it's almost like you've got to make someone famous at your business. Now, if you don't want to be the face of your business, because some people don't want to, make one aspect of it. So there was a company that I didn't get the contract, which is okay. It wasn't the right timing. It wasn't, they didn't have the budget for it, but I still gave them some great ideas. We hopefully will work together in the future. Now they had this avatar. It was a bar fridges company, and they made this avatar. So do you have bar fridges in your country? Like we put being Australian, they all drink alcohol, and it's a big sports club thing. And they made this avatar of this young, I wouldn't say young, but this guy that pimp my fridge. So it was this guy, it was like a pimp, and he come around and pimp my fridge because their company was pimping a bar fridge. And they called him Frothy, which is a term in Australia for a beer. I said, okay, let's make Frothy your famous person in your company. Give him an avatar, make him famous and I said, you could feature some of your team behind it and do some little things because it just had that feel about it. It was bar fridges, they go to sporting clubs. Because now this device here, I say, is like a little Netflix in your pocket. So getting back to the personal brand, people, and how I liken it, and just tying into what you said about the brand, you've got to understand how people consume content. Okay. To tie in that question, no one goes to social media to buy. When was the last time you picked up your mobile device and said, oh, I'm going to sign up to a gym, buy a bar fridge, lose 10 kilos? So psychologically, therefore, no one is. So what are we using this for, Simon? We're picking our phone up because we want to have a dopamine hit, a connection, feel community, be entertained. So, but we will convert and we will buy if we've got that connection. So this is why when we're talking about a brand and a connection, people buy people. So if I'm just going to a company page, and there's no people, I can't connect with that. You can't connect with that. Your audience cannot connect. So there's got to be some give and take. There's got to be some kind of human element. And it also goes back to how many brands are out there online. How are you going to stand out to the next brand? Because I can get any pair of shoes in the world now on my phone. Why would I go to your brand over another one? Because I'm seeing amazing user-generated content from that shoe company with real life people that look like me. They're not Victoria's Secret models. I wish I looked like that, but I don't. Although I do like the Victoria's Secret parade because it's pretty cool. So I'm not saying, you can't look like that. You're using humanized people. But, or I'm just looking at shoes. I want to see what they look like in those shoes. So I believe you've got to have that human element. And Simon, I'm sure your audience, I can tell you now, when they're listening to this, I bet you they're all thinking some of their best posts are the random one of getting a birthday cake or when someone in the office fell over. you know? And I really believe that having that personal brand, particularly on LinkedIn, Simon, it works so well having a business page, but really utilizing your profile for lead generation. Lead generation.
I love that, Melissa, because you've sort of distilled it for the audience there and for me. And the two things that really stuck were give me a dopamine hit or entertain me, right? That's the two reasons I'm picking up that device predominantly.
Yes.
Take my mind somewhere else, give me a dopamine hit and a connection, or just entertain me, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting when you look at it from that perspective, of course, the content becomes really important. You've got to get my attention first. You've mentioned Gary Vaynerchuk a few times. I've been very fortunate to meet Gary on a couple of occasions. And he's all about
really?
where's the attention? Where is the attention? And because that's what he's interested in. He's not really hung up on the technology. He's interested in, well, where are the eyeballs today? And if you can make that connection with the audience from what you're saying, you can then sell them something. And I love the idea that you gave me in terms of bar fridges and frothy. I know it's quite an American term. Sorry, an Australian term, but it resonates because it brings personality, it brings a bit of fun, it brings a bit of entertainment to it. And guess what? On the back of that, you might sell a few bar fridges, right? So thank you for sharing.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. It's so iconic because it's such, particularly because it's an Aussie brand, and it's like, okay, if you don't want the stuff, and they bring this guy to life. Everyone wants a frothy in Australia, and yeah, it's such a personal touch. Like what you said with that dopamine hit, something I always learned when I was in a completely different career. I used to be a flight attendant many years ago. I was one for over a decade, and I haven't done it for 13 or 14 years. And I worked for I worked for Australian Airlines, but I also worked in the Middle East. Now, they love service, probably more so than safety. I hate to say it, but in that part of the world, they love service. One of the things they said, Simon, which resonates, and when you talk about that dopamine hit, they always said first impressions are important, but they always said last impressions are important. So if you're thinking about that dopamine hit, if I get off this and that phone has, left me, oh, that video, oh, inspirational, funny, or inspiring, or wow, that's amazing. I want to come back to that account. Now, guess what? That algorithm knows I stopped and I watched that video. So it's going to show me more content, but I also want to come back because now it's community. I'm part of that community now because I feel good because it left me feeling good. And, people always say some of the best speakers in the world, sometimes it doesn't matter. And what you just said about Gary Vee as well, about eyeballs. Sometimes it doesn't matter what you say, it's how you make people feel.
Yeah, and I think you also mentioned that sometimes we put so much care, attention, effort, thought into crafting the perfect communication strategy, and then the birthday cake post blows up and nothing else catches it, right? And some of the most engaging posts that brands do or individuals do sometimes are completely left field. They're completely out of sync. And
Yeah.
sometimes that spontaneity and that human connection, in this world of AI that you mentioned earlier, that
Yes.
human element to it still really cuts through all the noise, doesn't it? It makes it stand out.
Yeah, 100%. I had a video go viral on TikTok, and it was literally, look, it wasn't even my video. I credited the original owner, but it brought a lot of traffic to my account. It was 5.3 million. It was literally this lady camping. She stood on a log and she just tripped. She didn't hurt herself, but it was like the slow trip, and it was funny. And I wrote this, and the kids didn't want to look at her. They were so embarrassed of the mum, because in that moment it was like, my kids keep telling me, everyone was asking, is that your mum on TikTok at school, right? And they're incredibly embarrassed of me. And so I wrote, oh, I'm all about documenting for content, not creating. And I went, great, my kids have just said me, they're denying it's me at school, I'm going to make a post about that. So I put this lady falling over in slow motion while her kids were, morbidly embarrassed. And I wrote, my kids, when they see me on social media, 5.3 million. And I'm like, why can't I do this myself?
Yeah. No, it's true. It's true. And that brings me on to something that I do want to ask you. And that is, over the years where you've been running your own agency, managing your own personal brand, you must have had a lot of advice given to you, and you must have shared a lot of advice, Melissa. So just in terms of, let's provide a bit of value to our worldwide audience while we've got their attention today. Is there any sort of advice that you could share with us that you think is important for people to know who are looking at the area that you're involved in?
Yeah. I think one thing about the content is, and you've just reminded me, just post the content. Don't worry about the perfectly curated content, particularly on Instagram, because gone are the perfectly curated flat lay content. No one's going to see your content if it's sitting in your Canva account while you're editing it. Um, get on board for your organic content, because the world of social media has changed. And even if you don't know what you're going to do with that account in the future, just create it, because you never know when you're going to leverage that account or how the social media space is going to change. Too many people worry about, should I be on this platform? Do I need a business page on Facebook? Just open it, because tomorrow Facebook changes, directs traffic to pages rather than profiles. You don't know. Um, and the other piece of the other piece is, jump when features come out on, like, always use features on platforms. So I hear so many people complaining, "Ugh, I don't like reels. Now they're bringing out reels on this, and now they're bringing out reels on that." For a business, the easiest way for you to get seen and is to jump on that trend. So, for example, I know my personal Facebook account, I grew it quite quickly, and I grew clients' accounts quite quickly just by utilizing when Facebook Reels came out. It's a new feature. Use it, because it means a platform is going to push your content out. So if you are a business and a feature comes out, like LinkedIn is testing short form content at the moment, it's in their testing app. And it's going to be short, punchy, educational videos. It hasn't come out yet. Now, if that comes out, jump on it. They're going to push your content out. So if you're a business or you're wanting to grow your social media accounts, yes, you should have these accounts, and yes, you should be using the new features. I know it's overwhelming, but you can get VAs. If you don't have the money to hire an agency, there's VAs out there. There's sites where you can find marketing help, and you can do it. At least get something. If it doesn't have to be perfectly curated, hire someone overseas and just get it done, because then you've got something to leverage in the future.
Oh, some good advice there. Thank you,
Yeah.
Melissa.
You're welcome.
Look, when you look forward now, from your vantage point, and you think about the next 6, 12, 18 months, how does planning work for you in your business world at the moment? What's on your horizon? What are you hoping to achieve as you look forward, Melissa?
Yeah. For a start, I think I need some Valium. Um, um, so what's happening at the moment is I mentioned at the start that I've got my agency and I've also sort of monetized my own personal brand. That happened as a default of marketing organically my agency. So I'm in the process, probably short term. What's happening now is I'm separating my personal brand from my agency just so I can scale my agency at a quicker pace. Um, the agency, yes, it'll be based around my strategy, but it'll allow my team to grow it quicker because what seems to be happening is, um, everyone's coming to me and wanting me to manage it. Yes, it's still my strategy. Yes, you're still going to get an amazing team member, but they're sort of all coming to me. So what's sort of on the horizon at the moment? I'm also in the process of putting together workshops. Now at this stage, Simon, it's going to be face-to-face in Australia, but once I launch that, I will be opening a global version that'll be via video. What these workshops will be is basically how I manage a social media account. I'll be teaching business owners. It'll run over a 2-day period. If you don't have the money for done for you, I will teach your in-house team how to do it. Now, it's not teaching you how to be a marketer. There'll be a little bit of that in there. It's more to teach you how to manage it. How do you store your password securely? How do you set up a content calendar? How do you get your topic ideas? How do you set up the calendar? We'll give you all the templates so that you can do a whole year in advance of your marketing, really. Drag and drop, and we'll be able to set it up in your system, whether you use Google, Microsoft, set all your folders up and everything. I'm pretty excited about that. And I'm starting to do more guest speaking myself. So that's sort of happening in the next couple of months for the website. Next 6 to 8 months will be the workshop. Probably in the next year will be more global for the workshops. And a couple of drinks in between, I think.
A couple of coffees, yeah. Well, it makes sense because obviously you kind of have both audiences then, don't you? You have the audiences that are agency ready, whether they've got small, medium, or large budgets, but you also have the people, maybe the earlier stage where they need a bit of help getting this thing set up. They need to figure out how to do it. So you're kind of catering for a nice range of your customers there, aren't you?
Yeah, it's sort of in between. The workshops are kind of in between consulting, and because I sort of found that sort of pain point of, well, it wasn't quite consulting, wasn't quite enough, Simon. They needed actually someone to sit down with them. And I'm going to be honest, I don't enjoy one-on-one. So I would rather come in, bring some team members in to actually, because I don't enjoy the tech side, I'm not great at it. I'll get the team members to come in, do the follow-up, help them set up their system, but I will talk them through. I'll teach them how to find, how to use Answer the Public to find your topics, how to use ChatGPT to then not write your content, because you should never write your content fully with that, but how to structure it, how to do a blueprint really to structure it. So, and it was kind of that pain point of, well, it's not scalable to do one-on-one, but then how can I get people? And I just started having more and more people ask me, hey, let's fill up a room. We'll get a team of people in with me heading it up. And hence why the agency, I had to kind of take that little bit, step back a little bit more. And yeah, separate that. And plus
Yeah.
more people were coming to me to ask me and to speak. So I'm like, well, it's inevitable that I needed to do that.
Well, it,
Yeah.
it seems like all areas are going well and continuing to grow. And it sounds like you've got a busy 6, 12, 18 months ahead. That's for sure, Melissa.
Yeah, I think I need a wine subscription.
Okay. Well, look, before we run out of time, Is there anything else that you would like to share with our worldwide audience today? And secondly, and importantly, if people want to connect with you to find out all this great work that you're involved in, where's the best place for people to connect with you?
Sure. Look, I think if I had to share any parting things, I really want people to understand, be authentic. Be authentic with social media. I get that people are frightened about it. Now, if you are a solo person, please understand that don't be frightened of a camera. Talk to people as if they're just in front of you. Talk to people no different as if they were just in a room. Don't think of it, oh my gosh. Also understand, don't worry about your vanity metrics. Don't worry about your likes. You should see my Instagram account. It's terrible. I get one like, one comment, but then I might get 10,000 views a month behind the scenes that no one sees. So please don't worry about your follower count. It makes no difference. Worry about your engagement. Yeah. That's probably my parting gift. And be authentic. How you are in real life, you should translate that online and in your copy. How you talk, translate that. And if your brand was a person, that's how your brand should talk. And if people want to get in contact with me, connect with me on LinkedIn. Like I love talking to people on there. Connect with me on LinkedIn. If you go through my website, you're going to get a BD person or an inquiry form. Connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm sure, Simon, you'll pop that link up somewhere. Melissa Mitchell. And hey, your personal profiles are really the way to go if you want lead generation. So connect with me on LinkedIn.
Like that a lot. Thanks for sharing those things. But it's so important,
Yeah.
particularly in today's busy, hectic world. And I loved what you said about forget the vanity metrics, because the world of social media grew up on these metrics, didn't it? And today,
I
some
did.
people are still chasing the old metrics, but actually, what you need to measure is that true engagement, and to measure the thing that actually moves the dial that you want to measure, not just the vanity dopamine metrics, right?
100%. Like yeah, it's and again, it's a really difficult thing. People say, "Oh, but you've only got 2,000 followers," or I don't have the biggest amount of followers, but 90% of my work will come from LinkedIn. I've only probably got 2,500 or 2,300 followers, and I'm like, it doesn't matter.
Right, right, right.
Yeah, 100%. Always go for engagement over it because I've just had. I won't go on because we're wrapping up, but I've had a client. Someone reach out to me on TikTok and she's like, look, we've got 50,000 followers, not monetized at all. Not one client. Amazing business, ghost tours, amazing account. And I'm like, look, get on a live with me and I'll, because it's good for me. She's got 50,000 followers. So I'm thinking great engagement for me. I said, I'll give you some tips. Not one monetization, not one booking. So there you go. 50,000 followers means nothing. I said, okay, we've got to fix that.
100%, 100%.
Yeah.
And, I was
Yeah.
only talking to somebody earlier today about best way of building community. I still find it's one person at a time, genuine engagement. Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
So yeah, if they were in a room with you, if you had 50,000 people in a room and none of them were listening, that's what you have to look at. Or 100 people in a room that were listening to you, same thing.
Yeah.
Same thing. Yeah.
Well, Melissa, thank you for sharing that. It brings us nicely to the end of this episode. I think we've definitely offered some value to people watching and listening to us around the world. I want to thank everybody for doing that, and to ask them to like and follow and subscribe and do all the things I need you to do to help support the show. And hopefully they'll join me back here for some more discussions with creatives and leaders and thinkers just like Melissa. But Melissa, it's been a real pleasure to talk to you again today.
Thank you so much. And thank you to your audience. Much appreciated.